Hey guys, welcome to the Property Panel Podcast. You got myself, Jalen Hardcastle, here with Josh Story, and today we're going to be bringing you the day-old question: Are home prices falling?
Might be.
They might be, they
we'll
might
find out.
not. We will find out. But before that, Josh, would you give a thanks to our sponsors?
Yeah, I want to thank our title sponsors for this episode. Big shout out to Collier Title Company. If you need deed prep, title work, closings, and more, they're located in Brandenburg, E-Town, and Louisville. And you can call them at 270-763-6589. And then for this week's sponsor, We Buy Houses. We can give you a cash offer, close in as little as 2 weeks. If you're interested in that, just give us a call at 270-945-5416 or 270-945-7189.
Thank you for that, Josh. And if you or anyone you know would like to be a monthly, weekly, or yearly sponsor, you could give us a call at either of those numbers Josh just provided, or give us a call at the office at 270-422-1331. And that is 100 weekly, 300 monthly, and 3,000 yearly. And you're advertised on our intros, outros, as well as intermissions. Also, all social media platforms. I'm sure you've noticed we've been kind of getting back up on the Facebook game, advertising our weekly sponsors and our updates and stuff like that. We're going to continue to get more active as the summer comes to a close. We've been super busy with real estate and life, so not that we put it on the back burner, but we are busy realtors, and our clients come first. But we still want to give you the latest and greatest. So we are just happy to come and give you all the information we can in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and speaking of which, if you do need a realtor, whether you're looking to sell, if you're trying to buy a home, or you're starting investing, or you're a seasoned investor, give either one of us a call at those numbers: 270-945-5416 or 270-945-7189. But we have the tools, we have the network to help you out with whatever endeavor you're looking for in real estate. So keep that in mind. And then, like he was saying, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, and we're on Apple Podcast. Mm-hmm. So if you just go check us out at Property Panel Podcast, like he said, a free way to support, like, share, follow, whatever,
Especially follow on TikTok, because we are doing that giveaway. I think we're almost at 50 followers, so we're almost halfway there. We're trying to reach 100 followers on TikTok, and then we'll be doing a merch giveaway. It'll have some Property Panel Podcast shirts, maybe a couple Cedar Hills mixed in there, but we're going to be doing a 2 or 3, 4 shirt giveaway. So go ahead and follow us to get entered for a chance to win.
Yep, and if you are followed, go ahead and put on that bell notification. That way when we upload, whether it's a short or whether it's a full podcast. But yeah, I guess we're going to dive into the big question for today. Are home prices falling?
Now that we got your attention, hell no. No, I'm just kidding. Like we've talked about in weeks past, interest versus inflation, that is, the question at hand. And obviously, like we've showed, interest is up and down. It's the merry-go-round. It's all over the place. But inflation has continued to kind of stair-step. Obviously, we're going to have those plateaus, but there's really only been one dip in history that we've necessarily seen, and that was that 2008 crash. And like we talked about last week, ever since 2012, 2014, for the last 10 years, people are thinking the market's going to crash and the prices are going to come down. And as you can tell, they just keep growing. And then from that 2020 scare where everyone was scared for their lives, it still continued to blossom. And it was really actually a stepping stone for some big investors today to really get ahead of their competition.
Yeah, and sometimes you might see a little bit of price drops in local markets, but as far as the general market nationwide, you don't really see too many falls. Typically those falls can happen when interest rates go higher, but as you can tell, interest rates have went higher, prices haven't went down. And I think that's just something to, whether it be people moving into our area, so we just got more of an influx of demand. Either way, I don't think that we're going to see these prices fall. But we might see the interest rates go down, with it being an election year.
Yeah, typically. And I think that the house prices will go up, like you said, in turn to that. But like we said, the reason we're kind of bringing you this episode today is, are the home prices falling? We constantly hear every day in our business, clients that think the prices are about to plummet or whatnot. And that's not the case. And I think that they get on social media because a lot of people, even with the storms last night, everyone's getting their information, maybe not from the actual news channel on your TV anymore. It's more at your fingertips and on your phone. And people are actually turning to social media to get the latest and greatest information, kind of like what we're trying to bring you. But I got to say, just don't let the media scare you. We're professionals here, and if you do got a few questions, we're always happy to help.
And I think you always, trust your gut, even over the news. I mean, obviously, you want to get, good information and weigh your options through the news. But I think, the real news or the best way to get that kind of information is talking to people who are in the industry, who have a lot of cards or chips on the table that have risk. They're not going to steer you wrong because, if you're just buying your first home, that's, significantly less risk than if you have 10 investment properties. And, I think if you see investors moving, buying up property, then, that means they're probably, in the right as far as the market's going to keep going up.
Right.
They're not going to spend all that money just to lose it. So.
Yeah, and people always got to have a place to live. And I think that's one thing that people kind of put on the back burner whenever they see these prices fall. They're like, oh, people don't have to move. People aren't going through hardships. People aren't having to downsize or upsize. They're having more kids. There's always going to be a need for housing. And that's why I feel like this business is always going to be booming for the people that put in the work because, like I said, there's always going to be those people needing it, even in the worst of times. We've had people buying. My mom, she was a new agent at that time whenever 2008 rolled around. So she started in the thick of it when a lot of people thought this was one of the worst routes to go. And now just looking back, you can see that, she's built a great, team around her and a great life for herself and her family. And, I think it's one of the best investments you can make. And on those times where it does fall, that's just, I feel like a benefit for those investors and those people that are money savvy that have that cash flow.
Yeah. I mean, if you ever see a market fall, it's definitely a good time to buy. That's for sure. But either way, do your research, whether you're trying to purchase, your own home or if you're trying to do an investment of some sort. Do all the research you can, talk to people that are in the market and, can advise you on stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know that we like to, obviously we have years of experience and we have generational experience in this office, luckily. So we do have data to show you, on average what these homes are doing. So we got a good basis. Like we know that winters and summers are slower than the spring and the fall as far as real estate goes. But that's not in every situation. That's not every year, Like whenever we flip a house, we do keep that in mind. But at the same time, next summer might be when those interest rates really fall off. And that might be when that summer's going. So it's not a for sure thing. And no one truly knows the market. But like you said, we have those years of experience and those people and team and valuable assets that we can ask.
Yeah, just like coming up with market value, there's market trends that you can see and kind of plan around or just, be ready for. Summertime does seem like it can be a slow period, but it seems like towards the end of summer it does pick up. And those are just kind of small things that you notice being in the business. But yeah, do your research, before you make these big decisions. I don't really think home prices are falling anytime soon.
Definitely
unless
not in our area.
Unless there's some massive economic problem. But I mean, at that point,
humans extinct.
Yeah, humans extinct. No, but I really don't see that, happening, but like you said, you never really know truly. But you plan on what statistics say. You can't plan on what ifs because you're going to get stuck or make no progress.
Yeah, and like you said, do your research. I think that's one of the most important things. Ask those people around you. Get you a good lender and realtor in your corner to show you those good deals, those off-market strategies. And I think that's one thing that stood us as Cedar Hill Property apart from different companies is our off-market deals, our investor side of things. We might not be selling $300,000-$400,000 houses every day, but we do sell those houses. But we also sell $500,000 to $100,000 houses a week, and those add up. If you only get one sale at $400,000 a week, or you got 10 sales at $100,000, I think I'd take the 10 at 100.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Alex.
There's deals to be had. It's just where you find them or what you're looking for. If you're only looking for that $1 million listing, you might not sell nothing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of especially older investors and people that are not getting with the times are really trying to scare younger people and newer investors so they can buy and build themselves. And, luckily that we're young and we do have that generational experience. We got those people that have done it from the old ways to the new days, and we've been trying to find new ways. And there's still people that can do it better than us. And we got those people in our corner that we're trying to constantly learn from and trying to build from as well.
And they have a different perspective. If they bought back in the 70s, they probably traded a truck for their 15 acres or something. Real estate's gone up so much in the past 40 years that, they might just have a completely different perspective on, they definitely do think prices are high because their stuff's paid off and, they spent $15,000 40
Right.
years ago for something that's worth 200 or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just get, opinions from everybody, from, the older crowd, from a younger crowd, from investors, from real estate agents, really kind of come up with your own path forward. And make that decision on your own. But either way,
I
there's
have to
deals
take
to
a
be
call.
had.
You
No,
keep it
you're
going.
fine. There's deals out there. There's deals that you can find. Um, the market's always moving. And like we were saying, it doesn't have to be the $500,000 house. Like he said, we do a lot of, smaller dealings. So keep that in mind. But it seems like major companies are kind of scaring people so that they can buy. I've seen a lot of, whether it's wealthy billionaires or if it's these big corporations, they kind of dip their hand into scaring people away from the market so they can buy themselves. And I feel like that's happened quite a bit in this past 4 years since COVID. There's been a lot of these bigger companies purchasing and acquiring land. So keep that in mind. But really any market can be good, whether it's the COVID market. Even in 2008, if you had extra capital sitting around when those prices kind of went down a little bit, if you were able to purchase back in 2008, that was a great time for an investor to acquire new property. So any market can be good. It depends on how you play it. And that's why we said do your research. You can make it work either way. And, whether you're investing or if you're just trying to become a homeowner, just do your research.
And to your point, Josh, right there, especially, I know that you've dealt with this firsthand too, because with your brother-in-law being a savvy investor in our area and popping out those new construction double wides here more recently, that was an oversaturated market in our area because we was getting hella deals, and there was a bunch of investors fighting, chomping at the bit, getting these lands to invest on and move these houses on. So I think at one point last year, the beginning of this year, we ended up having 10 new construction double wides all for sale at $200,000 at the same time, which they all ended up selling because this is, you got to find that niche. And even though it seemed like an oversaturated market, he still succeeded because he found that way to stand out from the rest. And he found him a great road down there off of, I think, Gaines Farm Road. It's McDonald now.
Yep.
And that's a great looking neighborhood. And it's kind of like cookie cutter, but, people moving in from those cities trying to get to the country, they still want a little bit of that city feel. So I think that was a good thing he did, and he really hit that oversaturated market well.
I think that market is still kind of good.
Yeah.
And reason being, I think, behind the newer manufactured homes, one, you're getting a new home. Two, you're getting a 3 or 4 bedroom with over 1,500 square foot for $200,000. If you're going stick built with those statistics, you're looking at $300,000. So, a lot of these newer families or just families in general that need some extra bedrooms, they're able to get into a house big enough for $200,000. And that's kind of why, the manufactured market works. But, any market can be good. It just depends on how you stand out and, what decisions you make to stand out. One being manufactured homes. If you're going to specialize in that, that's a way to stand out in the market, make your own path in that way. But yeah, you do have to worry about oversaturation, even in manufactured homes, whether it be storage units, whatever it may be. These are all factors you got to consider.
And to your point too, I know maybe last week or maybe we was just talking apart from the show, you had mentioned that, storage units were getting a little oversaturated, and there has been, and that was kind of not a get rich quick scheme, but it was a good way to, minimize your investment as well as still make a pretty decent profit. And they're pretty low maintenance for the most part,
RV parks.
RV parks is the same way. They was, hitting like hotcakes there, especially with new core coming in. Everyone needed a place to go, and there was not enough houses at the moment. So now you see, quite a few of those RV parks that are not full capacity like they were. I remember that people would be calling us just seeing if we had a piece of land to drop a camper on for a couple days, just because there was literally no spots available. Now you go, and there might be 2 or 3 in the park at the moment.
Yeah, and it's still a great investment if your market makes sense. Like if there's already 15 RV parks, probably not a great idea, but if there's not very many, then it might be a good idea. It's relatively low startup costs and lots of potential to make your money back. But yeah, I mean, I don't think home prices are falling anytime soon.
No, and like we talked about, the interest rates with it being election year about to come down, so they're obviously going to rise a little bit. And we've really only had one major dip in history, like we talked about, that 2008 housing crisis. And what me and Josh like to always tell people is to date the rate and marry the house. So even if that interest rate might not be ideal, you're still probably going to be coming out lower on a monthly payment with that higher interest rate than you would be at a lower interest rate with a higher price. You know? So
and
don't think as much about the price
and
as
there's
much as or the
always
rate
an
as much as
option
the price.
to refinance. You know,
Exactly.
if rates go down, then you know, you can always refinance and then get that newer rate. So you know, keep that in mind. Like you said, date the rate, marry the house.
And something to think about when refinancing and just when buying your property is look at not only your rates, but you want to know if it's fixed or adjustable. And if it is adjustable, how many years out? You know, obviously if you're 10, 15 years and it starts to be adjustable, that might be okay, especially for me in certain cases where I know I'm only going to live in this house for 2 years. It's going to be kind of like a live and flip. I might be okay with an adjustable rate mortgage, whereas someone that's planning to be there 15, 20, 30 years, that might not be as a deal because you truly don't know where your interest rate might be. And you don't know where the interest rate might be in 15 to 20 years. It could be lower, but at the same time, if you got that locked in, you could still refinance down the road.
Right. You know, it's hard to tell, but I think, you know, adjustable rates are especially good if the interest rates are already high, because, you know, they could always go down. But I would say if the interest rates are already low, then you probably don't want an adjustable. But I guess it depends on the situation and what you're looking at. So.
Yeah, I would honestly just stay away from the adjustables just because, especially with the way that we've seen interest rates lately, you know, they are at a steady incline. And like we've talked about in episodes past, it's not going to surprise me if we get into the double digits interest rates over the next year or two. I remember back in the 80s or 90s, might even been the late 70s when Marty started investing. He said he bought his first property at 16% interest. Obviously, like you said, he might have traded a truck for it or something, right. But at the same time, that interest rate is ridiculous, and I can't imagine, you know, it's not a very good concept to grasp in your mind because you're like, man, I'm paying 17% interest on this thing. You know, that's X amount of dollars over however many years you got it, and that's most of where your money's going is to interest. You know, and especially on these house payments, I think for the first year or two, you know, it's mainly going towards principal and interest. So whenever you do go and sell your house in 2 years and you're like, dang, I put away 20 grand and it's only moved 3 or 4 grand off my mortgage, what's happening? Well, that's that interest rate for you.
I've heard that you can, like, well, there's strategies, but like maybe make an extra out of your 12 months, make a 13th payment. Well, so towards principal,
you do have
or something
to ask your lender because there could be prepayment penalties. So obviously, that's something else you want to look at whenever getting involved with the mortgage and the lender is are you going to have prepayment penalties to pay this loan off early? Because obviously, the banks, they make money on the loan, they make money on you paying them. So you know,
right. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of wraps us up for what the home prices are going to do. Ultimately, we never know, but. If we're going by history, I don't think they're falling anytime soon. You know, date the rate, marry the house. So, yeah, I think that covers most everything. If you have anything else before we close out,
I don't. You want to give a thanks to our sponsors?
Yeah, I want to